A hugely important lesson that I try to teach students is it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. And Nikka, the way that you were able to present information in our public speaking class was very memorable for me.
Thank you.
So I'm excited to talk to you about the how we say things to make speeches, messages, content much more interesting and engaging for students. So tell us a little bit about what you believe to be true about how we say things versus only what we say.
People always say you don't remember everything that you hear, you only remember about like 10% of what you hear. So the way that I deliver is that I focus on how I deliver so that it affects people in a way that they remember it, whether it's by affecting their emotions and they always refer to that moving forward, or whether it's something that they relate to, just something so that the information that you deliver resonates with them in the long run.
Definitely. You were able to engage our class in multisensory ways with highly visual content. For example, one of your speeches that was one of my favorites is when you were delivering a speech about drinking and driving, where your message was don't drink and drive. So tell us a little bit about the very unique way that you opened up your speech to really engage the audience from the minute that you opened your mouth.
My speech started with a phone call, and the phone call was a friend calling me, telling me that he was on his way home from a party or to my house after a party to hang out, but he had just been drinking. And I told him in the call, maybe you shouldn't be driving. And he said, no, I'll be fine, the way most teenagers tend to think. And then all of a sudden, you hear a car crash and the phone disconnects. And that's how the audience knows, without even me saying it, that my friend had gotten into a car accident.
And so already you were providing an experience where people were coming into a story unfolding before them. And from that moment on, people are really listening. Nobody's tuned out at that point. And then what happens next?
So after that, I got into the effects of it before even talking about the statistics, just so that people can resonate with it. I know people tend not to take things serious until they know that the impact that it can have on them. So that's when I started speaking about the effects.
Right. So you went from the story to now the harmful effects that drinking and driving has had on the population that you were speaking to, which is younger adults. And then after you've done those two things, then you move into some powerful statistics and numbers. I find that a lot of people tend to want to start with facts and data. But for most of us, that's just not as engaging as the power of a well-told, dynamic and engaging story. Do you remember how you ended your speech?
I ended it by relating it directly to the audience, saying that, you know, our winter breaks were coming up, so drinking would probably be common. I knew that our age group was college students. A lot of us are turning 21, so I also brought that into the picture because I know many of us are going to start drinking a lot, or a lot more often than before, probably. So this was a relevant topic to them, and I just reminded them of that. In the end, we all took a shot. It was just lemonade, but it definitely added to the feel of drinking.
You proposed a toast, you could celebrating, but also with the message of not drinking and driving, that if you're of age and you choose to drink, that's fully 100% your decision, but the driving piece, that's what can't happen. And it was highly memorable. I think it was enjoyed by everybody who was in the room. I thought you did a wonderful job too, especially in terms of connecting with the audience and engaging us. Were there lessons that you took away from that you would want to work on for next time?
Yes, I remember there was a one part where I tripped up because I was really reliant on my flashcards that I would glance down at. And at one point, I flipped a card before I needed to, and I completely lost my spot. And I tripped up for like 2 seconds. It was just seconds of silence. And then I realized that I knew exactly what I wanted to say. So there was no reason for me to be that dependent on the flashcards. So moving forward, I think I'll just be more confident in the fact that I know what I want to say, and the flashcards should just be something that I fall back on should that, have to happen.
Definitely. And that's an important realization to make too, is we prepare, we prepare, we prepare. Notes are there to help us, but when you are familiar with the content, then they're only there as a backup plan, but letting it flow from your heart, letting it flow creatively is a really important part of delivering an extemporaneous speech too.
Absolutely.
Are there any public speaking skills that you're still working on, something that you're striving to grow in?
Yes. So even though I grew a little bit from that experience of learning to be dependent on what I know my speech to be, I still have trouble memorizing scripts. So I'm still learning to take notes, just bullet point notes, and committing that to memory and learning to let that flow. Because right now I'm still in that stage where I'm like trying to memorize scripts word for word, and I really do need to stray from that.
Manuscripting is a really difficult strategy. What tends to work well for most people is to write it out, rehearse it, read it, but then when it comes to presentation, you're presenting from keywords or images for people who prefer images, but that they be short phrases. I really do think it's a matter of trying and seeing what fits best for the way that you like to deliver content.
Definitely. Yeah. Just have to work on that.
Sure. And we're all always learning and growing. What's something that you're very proud of yourself for having have worked on, or a skill that you believe, I'm pretty good at this?
So when I first started public speaking, it was actually my junior year English teacher who just kind of forced me into a public speaking competition. And I was not comfortable with that at all because she knows I'm shy. um, but what I did, and I know everybody always says this, but I literally faked my confidence until it was something that I had. So to really accept that nobody's judging me, I should just present with confidence, even though I'm not really confident, and just faking it till I make it is something that I've been able to take away both in class and outside of class.
Yes, and on that concept, I like to say, do it even if you're afraid. Like
Right.
do it afraid. And you're right. The majority of people stand up there and feel so judged. That's the biggest reason why people fear public speaking, because they think they're
Right.
being judged. And the truth is, most people are not judging you. Most
Right.
people, when we're up there speaking, they're actually rooting for us to do a good job. They want to
Exactly.
hear a good message, something that's of interest. And of course, there will be some people who are just neutral or fairly disinterested for whatever reason. But the majority of people, and most definitely in our public speaking classes, the way relationships are built and the way that we form community in the room, people really are on your side to do well. I do find it surprising to hear that you would consider yourself quiet and shy. And I agree that in class you're a really good listener also. But I think it's interesting to hear the behind the scenes. And that's why I love having these kinds of conversations, because there will be a ton of people who believe that the best public speakers are those who speak the loudest or the most. And that's simply not true. Those two things are not connected. So people who are quiet and shy shouldn't feel that they're not capable of being an excellent public speaker. What do you think?
I agree. Yeah, and it's funny because I know some people say I'm not good at public speaking because I'm shy, but that doesn't really go hand in hand. So to accept that you can be good at public speaking even though you have a certain personality type is just something that you have to work with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Introverts, extroverts, it doesn't matter. Ambiverts, you can be any kind of vert you want and still be able to deliver an excellent speech, an excellent message. If you had to summarize your message for our audience, Nikka, for those people that are listening, how would you do it in one sentence? What would you say?
I would say that the delivery of your content makes such an impact on how people digest it and how much they retain from your speech.
That's the key point that we're highlighting today, that you can plan the most perfect words, but if you get up there and those words don't have style, they don't have, they're not alive, there isn't the variety that connects with the audience, it doesn't matter that you have perfect words and perfect statistics, perfect data. What we need the most is that delivery to be engaging, which is a real talent that you have. So it's very exciting for me to see you bring that to life in the classroom.
Thank you.
Now let's say we had to put your message on a t-shirt. What would you say?
Delivery is everything.
Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, delivery is everything. If you could go back in time and talk to your 18-year-old self, For 15 seconds, what would you say to 18-year-old Nikka?
18-year-old, 17 years old, that's when I started joining competitions. And my teacher would always tell me that I'm good at it. And, like as somebody who's never done this before, I felt like she was just saying that to encourage me. But I wish I could tell myself to really have confidence in what she was telling me, because I ended up going to college and people are telling me that I'm good at public speaking, like even a public speaking teacher, And then I went into the corporate world, and the first thing people say to me after a presentation, even virtually, is your presentation skills are so good. And this has been different companies. And so if I had told myself that at 18, that people aren't just saying this to make you feel good, I feel like I would have grown with a lot more confidence than I have now.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that so many people in various areas of your life have been affirming this part of you. So you have a lot to be proud of, right? You're doing great work, delivering great messages at work. What's been a strategy that you use currently at your job that you learned in public speaking class?
So something that I really, really took away from public speaking class is structuring my speeches. We learned a lot of different models in your class. And previous to that, when I would write up presentations, I would make PowerPoints and just stick information together. But you taught me the importance of like a hook and the order that you present different statistics and things like that. So by structuring my presentations using your methods later on, it made my ideas a lot more coherent and easy to follow.
Yeah, and that's the non-glamorous, the non-sexy side of public speaking. You think like, wow, the spotlight, the attention, the message. But really, this all starts with planning, with organizing, with structuring, with writing and rewriting. Do you tend to have trouble making it more concise, narrowing it down, or is that something you don't really struggle with?
Absolutely. I do struggle with it because I have so much stuff that I feel is super important. Everybody needs to know this. But in the end, I really have to put myself in the shoes of the audience and be like, what do they really need to hear?
I agree with you. Self-care is something that's very valuable to me to pass on to those of you that have been my students, but really to anyone that will sit and talk with me, always talking about how we can take good care of ourselves. What's something that you did recently that was just for you?
Taking a break. I know everything these days, especially with capitalism being such a big thing, is like you need to constantly be working. If you're not in class, you need to be studying. If not, you need a side hustle, you need to monetize your hobbies, things like that. And I have been either working or in class nonstop for over a year now. And I have like 2 weeks break between my last day of my internship and the start of classes. And at first I was like, okay, so how can I do some things to, monetize my hobbies or things like that, or be productive? And I sat down and I'm like, you know what? I just need to rest.
Unfortunately, that's one of those lessons that we need to hear at every stage of our life is to rest, to be still, to recharge. For some people, that can come fairly easily. They know, all right, it's time for a break. Then there are some of us who border on maybe being workaholics that we need that constant reminder. So one thing that's helped me is putting time in my calendar where I'm intentionally blocking time for myself. I decide whatever that activity is going to be, but it's 1 hour a week that's just for me. And now you're getting ready to go into what year?
My senior year.
How does it
Wow.
feel to comparing about to enter my freshman year, about to enter my senior year?
Wow. I was thinking recently that when I was a freshman, I was stressing over the fact I had no answers, right? Like I didn't really have a major, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But 3 years later, entering my senior year, even though it's virtual, I get almost nostalgic because, things just find its way to you. You start to discover what your passions are, start to discover what you're good at in college. It's a lot of failing. Like I remember sitting down freshman year, like, wow, I'm not good at any of this. Like, but those are the things that kind of lead you to deciding what you want to do. What do you want to pursue after college? What are your next steps? So I'm happy to say entering my senior year, I think I have a general idea of what I want to do. I definitely want to get into consulting because I like people, but I'm still on the business side of things. So definitely there's a place for everybody. And I wish I told myself that as a freshman, that you will find where you belong, you will form your social groups, and everything will be good.
That's excellent. And I do feel like there's so much growth and change that happens from entering the 18th year, then entering the 22nd year. And not just academic intelligence, but also emotional intelligence.
Yeah, and I know so many people in our age group are scared to fail, but something that I learned recently is that at this age, I'm 21 now, it's just to live life with open arms when it comes to taking risk. Because even if you fail at something, at least you don't regret never trying it. For example, if I never tried public speaking when I got encouraged to, I would have never known. Um, and people have all these ideas of things that they want to do, like businesses or new skills that they want to hone, different things like that, but they're scared because of failure. But honestly, this is the time to fail, right? Like we're in our young early 20s and we have so much ahead of us. We may as well accept failure because that's just a part of life and it really helps discover what you really want.
The reason why I also encourage to try and to explore and experiment in class, I mean, it is designed for learning. It's designed to
Exactly.
try things out. And when you fail, to me, and I remember, I don't remember who exactly said this, but failure is not an option, it's a requirement. There is a lesson in every loss, and that's just a part of being who we are, being people. It's even more important now to communicate in a way that's engaging, to be concise, to listen to our audience, to involve them in the journey with us anytime we have to speak. So I'm glad that you're doing well in your speaking and your communication and able to share a really great message with everyone listening today.
Thank you.